Welcome to part 2 of a two-part series entitled Beloved Mystic Sufi Poet Hafez. An influential figure in the world of Persian poetry, the beloved mystic and Sufi poet Khorje Shamsuddin Muhammad Hafez Shirazi, more commonly referred to as Hafez, has uplifted the hearts of readers in both the East and the West. From the 14th century to the present day, whether with monarchs or the average civilian, Hafez's words are like a cool springtime breeze that refreshes and replenishes our spirit. Hafez's book of poetry, the Divan of Hafez Shirazi, is said to be found in almost every Iranian's home. The poet's pen name, Hafez, is derived from the Persian root word to memorize. He was given the title as he had learned the Quran by heart and could recite the holy book in its entirety. Having learned from his spiritual master Haji Zain al-Attar, Hafez emphasized private discipline and intense study with sincere communion at dawn, in the evening, and at midnight, rather than on regular prayer sessions done by rote. For Hafez, religion was an internal matter, and Allah is tolerant and merciful. When Hafez reached his 60s, he longed for a greater spiritual awakening. 40 years after having met his spiritual master, it is said that Hafez began another 40-day and 40-night vigil. He drew a circle on the floor and sat there for his vigil. On the last morning of his 40th day, Hafez set out for his master's residence. There, with the grace of his master, Hafez attained cosmic realization. After this incident and before his passing, Hafez composed over half of the poems we have from him today, including the beautiful ghazal poems. In this phase of his life, Hafez's poetry reached a higher state of spiritual maturity than it ever had before. Hafez often hints in his poems that essential truth will be understood by those who are on the spiritual path, dealing with struggles wayfarers face. But for those uninterested in this path, such truth is elusive.
چنگ در پرده همین میدهدت پند، ولی وعظت آنگاه کند سود که قابل باشی.
The Divan of Hafez Shirazi, Ghazal number 456.
Within the structure of Hafez's poetry, one sees the masterful use of Persian words and phrases along with a keen sense of harmony and musicality. The Persian form of poetry in which Hafez uses with great adeptness is called the ghazal or love lyric. The length is anywhere from 5 to 14 couplets, with each couplet in the poem functioning as an independent poem in itself. The ghazal is a short love poem, usually created to be sung or at least intoned. The closest parallel in Western poetry would be the sonnet, except that all the verses in the ghazal have the same rhyme ending, and this is what binds this style of poem together. Ghazals are also used when friends and family get together in communal singing and dancing. Hafez, by common estimates, wrote around 500 ghazals over his lifetime. It is said that he never put pen to paper without first being moved by inspiration. To him, words were like gems that come together. Hafez constructed his poems like multifaceted pieces of crystal, reflecting the light to the viewer. We now invite you to enjoy one of Hafez's ghazals with us.
باش میگویم و از گفته خود دلشادم، بنده عشقم و از هر دو جهان آزادم. طایر گلشن قدسم، چه دهم شرح فراق که در این دامگه حادثه چون افتادم. من ملک بودم و فردوس برین جایم بود، آدم آورد در این دیر خراب آبادم. سایه توبی و دلجویی هور و لب حوض به هوای سر کوی تو برفت از یادم. نیست بر لوح دلم جز الف قامت دوست، چه کنم حرف دگر یاد نداد استادم. کوکب بخت مرا هیچ منجم نشناخت، یارب از مادر گیتی به چه طالع زادم. تا شدم حلقه به گوش در میخانه عشق، هر دم آید غمی از نوب مبارک بادم میخورد خون دلم مردمک دیده سزاست که چرا دل به جگر گوشه مردم دادم پاک کن چهره حافظ به سر زلف ز اشک و نه این سیل دمادم ببرد بنیادم.
Hafiz passed away in Shiraz in 1390. He did not compile his own works during his lifetime. It was 21 years after his passing that his poetry was assembled into the collection known as the Divan of Hafiz. His life and poems have become the subject of much analysis, commentary, and interpretation, and had a great influence on post-14th century Persian writing. Since the 1940s, a more concerted and ongoing effort has been made by Iranian scholars to gather the most accurate rendition of Hafiz's works. All year long, lovers of Hafiz's poetry visit his tomb, known as the Hafiziyeh, which lies in the beautiful Musalla Gardens on the northern outskirts of Shiraz, on the bank of the Ruknabad River. Many who visit the tomb of Hafiz claim to be inspired by him directly, although not everyone needs to visit the actual Hafiziyeh to gain this experience. One such individual is Daniel Ladinsky, a modern-day American poet. Daniel Ladinsky had an inner vision in which the spirit of Hafiz's artistic light was imparted to him. Daniel Ladinsky has gone on to author poems in a similar style as Hafiz, but in the English language. His inspired work has brought a greater awareness to the name Hafiz around the world in recent times. October 12 has been declared the official National Day of Hafiz in Iran. People celebrate this day by reading Hafiz's works and appreciating the influence his poetry has had on Iranian culture and tradition. His literary contributions are also honored in ceremonies held in 61 other countries. In 1812, the works of Hafiz were translated into German and have been acknowledged as having a profound influence on the German poet Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, whose West Eastern Divan was inspired by Hafiz and Iranian culture. The Beethoven Square of Weimar, Germany houses the Hafiz Goethe Memorial, where two granite chairs facing east and west stand as metaphors for the meeting of Eastern and Western cultures. Goethe once said,
In seinen Gedichten hat Hafiz eine unbestreitbare Wahrheit unauslöschlich festgehalten. Hafiz sucht seinesgleichen.
American poet Ralph Waldo Emerson stated, Hafiz is a poet for poets. He said,
Hafiz defies you to show him or put him in a condition inopportune or ignoble. He fears nothing. He sees too far. He sees throughout. Such is the only man I wish to see or be.
Other notable admirers of Hafiz were Prussian German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche and British author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, whose famous fictional character Sherlock Holmes quotes Hafiz. The world-renowned German composer Johannes Brahms was so touched by Hafiz's poems that he used some of the Persian poet's verses in his musical compositions. Her Imperial Majesty Queen Victoria is also said to have turned to Hafiz for advice when needed by consulting his divan using the Faleh Hafiz or Oracle of Shiraz Hafiz. This oracle practice and consultation has been an ongoing tradition in the Middle East for hundreds of years. To close today's program, we invite you to enjoy Hafiz's Ghazal number 143.
سالها دل طلب جام جم از ما می کرد وانچه خود داشت ز بیگانه تمنا می کرد گوهری که از صدف کون و مکان بیرون است طلب از گمشدگان لب دریا می کرد مشکل خیش بر پیر مغان بردم دوش کو به تأیید نظر حل معما می کرد دیدمش خرم و خندان قدح باده به دست و اندران آینه 100 گونه تماشا می کرد گفتم این جام جهان بین به تو کی داد حکیم؟ گفت آن روز که این گنبد مینا می کرد. بیدلی در همه احوال خدا با او بود. او نمی دیدش و از دور خدا را می کرد.
If you are bored by your woman, making war won't make you more attractive to her. It'll make you look worse.
It's been a pleasure to have you, our noble viewers, with us today.